Long time no see. Yeah, I've been wanting to do this top 10 for a while now, but my voice went out on me, so I couldn't do it, and I didn't want to sound all raspy like this through the top 10. So, last month was America's presidential election, and to quote a scene from Indiana Jones and The Last Crusade, you chose poorly. Now, some people were telling me, yeah, give him a chance, maybe it'll be good. No. I've seen this movie. It sucks. It's not going to be good. But some people have told me, yeah, you might be surprised by it. Have you been surprised by a movie? I have, actually. And so, let's talk about that. Kind of cheer myself up and also ease back into making these videos. This is going to be my top 10 surprisingly good movies. Now for this list, these are movies I either went into with almost no expectations whatsoever and walked away saying, wow, that was a good movie. Or these are movies that I thought were going to suck or not be that good. And then I walked away from it and said, wow, that was actually good. I'm surprised. So here we go. Number 10 is Clue. Yeah, it's based on the board game of all things. This movie came out in the 80s, and I watched it first on TV, and then I would watch it on VHS. Remember those? And this one's a kind of interesting movie because it takes the elements of Clue, the board game Clue. A bunch of people go to a mansion. They all have assumed names, aliases, if you will. And something happens and you got to figure out who did it, where, with what. And so, some funny actors in this movie. Christopher Lloyd's in it, Tim Curry's in it, and there's some pretty interesting moments to it. It's kind of fun. And what's really interesting to me is, especially on the DVD, is it has 3 endings. 3 different endings, because when it was originally released, each theater got different endings. So sometimes you would talk to people, oh, this is how the movie ends, and then they would go watch it, and that's not how the way they saw it. And it's like, wait, you lied to me. How's that? And so it's kind of cool. You don't see that anymore, and I kind of wish they did, only so that it would throw people off the scent of how movies end or what's going to happen to them. And so when it came out on VHS, it had all 3 of the endings, and one was the definitive ending. And so when it came out on DVD, you had the option of either having one of the 3 endings at random, or having the VHS release where it would be the 3 in a row with the true ending. This movie was kind of fun. I had no idea what it was going to be about. I never played Clue, so I just watched it, and I really enjoyed Tim Curry in this movie. He's funny. He's interesting, and so it's definitely a movie I would watch every once in a while, and I think it's a movie that people should check out, and I think people don't know it enough. Number 9 is Day Without a Mexican. How appropriate. Yeah, how appropriate. And so this movie is a kind of a lie because it's more than a day. Yeah, this movie lasts longer than a day. And what was interesting about this movie is it's not all of America. It just focuses on California because California has a large Mexican-American population and even people from Mexico who are undocumented. And you hear a lot of people saying, we'll get rid of all these Mexicans. We don't need them here. And this movie's basically, wish granted, now pay the price. And so that's the kind of interesting thing. You see the fallout of what happens when all of the Mexicans in California just disappear like that. And it's kind of fascinating what happens. They would even talk about some of the real aspects about how Mexican Americans impact the agriculture business, economy in general, and all these different things. And so you kind of see that, yeah, you don't know what you have until it's gone. And that's one of the lines in the movie, I paraphrased a bit, where she says, how do you make something invisible visible? Answer, you take it away. and that's what this movie does. It's pretty fascinating. And also, the last Mexican in California, they try to figure out how is she connected to all this, what's up with her story. It's an interesting story. You should check it out. And again, this is one of the movies I didn't really know I didn't know anything about. I just saw the title and I thought, oh, that sounds interesting. Watched it, I was like, oh man, that's good. I bought the DVD. So definitely a movie that people don't really talk about too much, but definitely I think should get more eyes on it. Number 8 is Sleepy Hollow. Yes, the Johnny Depp, Christina Ricci movie. And I remember I watched this movie and I didn't really know too much. I knew the story of the Headless Horseman. It's one of my favorite stories. And I watched the Disney version of it. So I had this vision of what the story was going to be, and it was completely different. But it was fun. It was its own thing, and so because of its own thing, it allowed it to not be tied into what we think of when we think of the Headless Horseman. It's very different. Johnny Depp plays a constable who is sent to Sleepy Hollow to solve a murder mystery, and so Christina Ricci is pretty cool in this movie too. She definitely comes across like someone who has lived in almost a Puritan kind of community. Even though it's not a Puritan community, it definitely looked like an old 18th century kind of town, and it's kind of cool. The action sequences are kind of fun to watch. Johnny Depp is before he was Captain Jack Sparrow in virtually everything, he was definitely a good character and was more subdued in this movie than you would see him in something like the Pirates of the Caribbean. He's a little bit similar to Edward Scissorhands in kind of a subdued way, but he has more dialogue. And it's pretty cool to watch. It's a movie I would definitely recommend watching around Halloween. Well, too late now, but yeah, definitely check it out maybe next Halloween and have some fun with it. It's pretty cool. Number 7 is The War on Kids. The first documentary hit any of my top 10s, I think. And oddly enough, there's going to be 2 documentaries in this top 10. This is the first one. What I thought about this movie before I watched it was absolutely nothing. Because I was goofing off on YouTube one day and I just saw this trailer for this movie called The War on Kids. And I thought, wow, that sounds very fascinating. And so I found it and I watched it, and then I realized, wow, this movie was kind of something I would talk about when I was in high school. I talked about the cameras and the security guards and all this, making people feel like they're already in a prison, even though they're just trying to go to school. And that this movie touches upon this sort of thing. It also touches about how people kind of talk down to teenagers and how there's this kind of visceral anger almost of children in general, and teenagers especially. And it's one of those movies that I thought, wow, this is the movie I could have helped make when I was a teenager. And they even talk about Columbine and how the security cameras afterwards didn't really do much of anything. And one thing that I didn't really think about when I was a teenager, this movie does talk about, is the overuse of psychotropic drugs and how it's kind of talk about that. It's used not just for people who actually have these sort of mental disorders. It's just used in a way to kind of just force kids in line. And I believe that some kids do have ADD and ADHD, but I think the numbers are not as high as others would have you believe. Number 6 is Shark Night. It's me. I am a fan of shark movies, so of course this movie is shark movie is going to be on this list. And I remember when I watched the trailer for it, the trailer is actually the worst thing about this movie because it gives away too much. And so when it was shown, I thought, oh, this is going to be kind of bad, but a cheesy kind of, haha, look at the bad effects or look at the bad acting, that sort of thing. And it was, even though it was going to be theatrical release, I didn't really think it was going to be that good. It was just going to be one of those movies that you would get some friends together and just poke fun of. Kind of like how you'd watch Two-Headed Shark Attack or Sharknado or Ghost Shark. But I rented it on DVD, and I have to say I was actually very entertained by the movie. I thought it was kind of fun. It was definitely different than you would see from other type of shark movies. And at first it seemed like the way the sharks got into this lake was kind of, I guess, feasible and believable, but then you already know, oh, this is how they actually got there. And if the trailer hadn't ruined the big twist, I think the movie would have been a lot more liked by people. But I watched it and I thought it was fun, and it was definitely something different. And so I think people should probably give this one another go. Get some friends together during Shark Week next year and just have some fun watching this movie. So that's it for part one. What is something this year that has really surprised you? This year has been very surprising. Some of it has been good, some of it has been bad, some of it has been absolutely terrible. But let me know in the comments. Stay tuned for part two, which should come out tomorrow. Until then, take care.